Hello together and welcome to our new podcast, the AI Boardroom. Svetlana, I would love to hear first from you and tell the audience who you are.
Hi, I'm Svetlana Makarova. I am an AI strategist and implementation advisor. I love AI and I help businesses adopt AI, understand what value it brings and how to actually bring it into their business. And I'm an AI geek, so I love talking about these topics, and I think we could share some of both of our knowledge in the upcoming episodes, but really bringing that practical angle to business leaders. That's what I enjoy having conversations about. How about you?
That's how we came up with this whole concept here. So my name is Edgar. I'm from Germany. I still find it impressive that you sit in Washington D.C. It's 8 hours difference or so, and we can record a podcast. I love technology, and our combined love of technology brought us here to talk a bit about AI, which also for me, I'm a developer for the last 14 years, it's nearly, and also did a lot of AI development, have active AI projects like you too. And we'd love to talk about all that we collected and all that we hear. Am I right? A lot of people hear AI, it's everywhere, but the understanding is lacking in a lot of things.
There's definitely a lot of buzz around AI. People, and I say this a lot, when it's unfamiliar, it's uncomfortable. So people they hear the buzz and they're like, okay, well, I don't know how it works. I don't know what's different about it, but let me just kind of table it for now and come back to it when it's more familiar. So I feel like people are talking about ChatGPT. I think we just spoke about it, prior to this. I did a quick keyword search on Google. So how many people even, search AI or ChatGPT? And you'd be surprised, but between 100 to 1 million searches across, I want to say 5 to 6 different categories of different spellings of ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. People are really curious about what it is. They don't go immediately and go use the tool and just jump in. They want to learn what it is first. But there's not a lot of kind of discussions on how it works, what it can do for your business. There's just a lot of just diving in deep, go and use it. But then again, if people don't even understand what the heck to use it for, it becomes quite difficult.
Yeah, so and this brings us to the first episode. You might have seen it already in the title, but we wanted to start to talk about ChatGPT because that's basically how it all went down. I think in November 2022, when they launched it, and launching it even themselves not knowing what to expect and what will happen. And I think the AI wave that has since then become rolled over the world, we have to say. I there was already an open source community before ChatGPT, but I don't think open source was even close to being that big. Just from research point of view, it's really interesting what happened in the last 14 months or so. So let it be 15. It's the rate of development, I've not seen anything like it.
And if you think about it also is, GPT models, transformer models have been around, since 2017, right? Until they truly kind of put until they put a front end, I want to say a more user-friendly chatbot style of communicating with these models. People didn't really make much of it. We, in our organization, evaluated GPT for one of our AI models, specifically focused on natural language processing. But it was just not suited well for our industry, so we ended up kind of passing it. But nonetheless, I think before 2022, unless you were technically savvy to really evaluate those models for your use cases, you couldn't really use it. And then, I guess ChatGPT tried something, or I'm sorry, OpenAI tried something different, and they just kind of blew up. Because they were like, okay, well, it's been around for 5 years. Let's just test it. No one's going to come. We're just going to put it out and let's just see how it goes. I think it caught them by surprise.
Yeah, honestly, I already applied for GPT-3, I think it was, and it came like late 2020, and I got also access, and I was doing a startup during COVID at that time, and I really looked forward to use it, but I didn't get it, honestly. Like I wasn't that. Yeah, I didn't get what this because it also it hadn't had the chat component. It also was text. It only was text completion, so you could type something in and it would complete the text. So it's not that different from chatting, but there's like a small there's a small difference in how you use it and how do you interact with it, and that's basically what put me a bit off. And of course, it was not even close to being as good as then the released GPT. But yeah, we like the term GPT is like around. You already said it, like transformer models. Like I think it's kind of funny that they have ChatGPT as a like trademark name, because ChatGPT is not the model itself. It's like it's an app. It's an interface, like you said, a front end. And that's also one of the things we want to talk about today. Is like, what is this ChatGPT app even about? And it got a little bit more buzz now with the launch of the GPT Store the last weeks. I think like 2 weeks ago or so. And we wanted to start off a bit with a small talk section where we try to advocate like pro or against the usage of this said store, just to introduce stuff. So
and I think just to add to that, I would say like specifically focused on business. I think personal use uses are different, managing your tasks, but I think we want to make sure that business leaders are equipped with knowledge as to what does it mean to use ChatGPT, what impact does it create to your business if you wanted to adapt the use of ChatGPT across your organization, and how could you do it? So I think we're a small maybe preview towards the end. We will touch on data privacy and all of these other things that you should be considering if you were to kind of adapt or kind of roll it out in your organization.
Yeah, GPT Store. We try to one is for tries to find arguments on the positive side. The other will try to argument like more on the negative side, which we at least in our mind thought would be a funny interaction. Let's see how it works out. Talking about the GPT Store, I think it's fair to say that OpenAI tries for ChatGPT, for the app, to become the next iPhone environment, and GPTs are basically the apps, so they are tuned. Oh, actually, we have to be careful with the wording here. But there, you have kind of neat little inserts,
customized.
Apps. Yeah, customized, pre-customized prompts for talking to ChatGPT, so that ChatGPT can, on the one side, adapt persona, and on the other side, access external data. And now I ask you, Svetlana, is it the next iPhone moment?
Oh, absolutely not. I have so many different thoughts, and and I think you could take a history lesson with iPhone, right? When they launched their App Store, and the key to their success was having a platform, and it was, all of kind of their, not everything was perfect, but they did have their T's crossed and I's dotted when they launched it. There was a clear path, but for people to create apps and monetize. There were some hiccups, I would say, with permissions, and then kids buying thousands of apps from their parents' phone without actually getting their parents' permission. But there weren't as many kind of concerns with adoption. And I think with we saw another phase of this with Amazon. Amazon was trying to launch their whole kind of store of their own kind of devices, right? And they thought that the adoption of it is going to skyrocket. The problem was is that they had a small app store, but there weren't enough apps on their phone, and so people would just at that point, iPhone had such a lead time towards such a higher lead time. People were just so used to that experience, it didn't make sense to switch. And so when it comes to ChatGPT, you have to make sure that there's enough value for on this platform for people to want to like switch from their old or kind of use that they're comfortable with. So when you're saying, is this the new iPhone? People are still trying to figure out what the heck ChatGPT is and how to use it. And then if you're really looking to monetize or like really build out this platform, you're not going to get a lot of usage. So the people who are more technically savvy, more adapt to using ChatGPTs are going to be probably your highest users of these systems. As you even talked about, how do you use, how do you create the GPT? Like, what is it and how is it different from ChatGPT? And I think it makes sense maybe to even step back just a second and say, like, how do you interact with ChatGPT, right? How do you make sure that it produces quality content? So basically you prompt the system. So that's one way. I think that there's 3 ways that I could maybe summarize. One way is that you provide context via prompt. So you would just say, like, assume that you're this person, provided some context as to what you wanted to do, consider, maybe give it examples, and then that's how you ensure you get quality feedback. So you could do that every time. Every time that you use that system, give it a paragraph of a prompt with all of that context, and then you could basically get the output you want. You can go into your own ChatGPT and in the system prompting, there's a configuration section where you could configure it and say, like, every time that you're running my prompts, consider this context. This is the person that I am. Yeah. And then there's a third way that I think it requires some integration, but let's say ChatGPT, what GPTs actually do, they automate that. So instead of you prompting the system, they're like, I'll take the heavy lift for you. I'll do that system setup that you need. All you have to do is just assume that it knows what you're trying to do. And so when you open up that ChatGPT or that GPT, just ask it directly, like, what do you want to do? And I'll give you all of that prompt back. But that's kind of the whole value of these systems is, if you're using, I don't know, some character specific GPT, it's going to act like that character. And you don't have to provide context as to, like, act like this, character and all of the different personalities that it must, exhibit. So these GPTs all do that heavy lifting for you. But I don't know where I was going with that.
Let's focus on some upsides. So what do you think are some upsides? And maybe I come along and disagree.
Yeah. So I think with so what it enables you to do. So a lot of the folks who have a lot of experience with GPTs, and so they kind of have started using it in the last year and really becoming prompt engineers, so are really good at it, right? So those are going to be the first people who develop these GPTs. So they have kind of that experience, and there is something in it for them. They're not just doing it for like the common good. Some of them are, but there is a revenue model behind it, right? So sometimes, they're creating all of these different use cases based on their experience. So you could assume, that they've kind of built that quality, like QA in the system to ensure. So if you wanted to use it for a specific business use case, then you just jump in and use it because the quality assurance has been taken care of for you. So what do you think about that, Edgar?
You're right. I also think that the payment model they came up with is one of the fairest I've seen, because like if your GPT is getting people onto the platform, paying an extra fee, and it's basically like it's like YouTube Premium, where like I have YouTube Premium, I don't see ads, but depending on my watch time on someone's video, he gets a cut of the monthly payment I do, and that's like basically the same with GPT, and basically the cost and and revenue stream, like they're pretty aligned. I'm not sure what the cut is, but like the general idea of the model and the payment, it's definitely something that I like. I also think that you are definitely quicker just opening a GPT. I have saved this week some of them, just like testing and trying it out for our podcast. I'm still not 100% convinced if like just without any actions, without any interfaces, just a prompt design, if it really improves the experience. Right now, I'm a bit iffy on that. But I could also, as I have prompt engineered a lot last year, I can see myself preparing some things. But because you're right, you can of course go into the system settings and set one system prompt up, but you like to have different personas. You have maybe one Python coder, one JavaScript coder, stuff like that. I'm still not convinced, honestly, that it's better than just using GPT-4. And that's also something I wasn't aware of. Are GPTs using GPT-4 by default? Because like some of the responses seem to be worse than me using GPT-4.
Do you mean that the GPTs that are built that you have access to, whether or not they use... Okay. Yeah. Even if you have a subscription plan, you would assume...
So because we cannot choose anymore, right? And I was a bit... I had a coding task yesterday. I got into like a GPT called Coding Assistant in the hope that it just reduces the explanation part, because if you ask for code, it like explains you everything. Sometimes it doesn't even give you code, just the explanation. And so I was hoping to get the GPT, which just has pre-applied the stuff that I have to write manually otherwise. So like leave the comments away, give me the proper solution, only give me back the code, stuff like that. But it didn't do this, and it was the highest rating coding assistant GPT. I'm not convinced yet. Also, it's like the ability to copy it is pretty easy. Like because you even have a chat to create a GPT. So if you see a GPT that's making that's getting a lot of usage, it's basically it's a 5-minute task to recreate that GPT. As long as you don't have any Zapier actions, stuff like that. We will get on this later. I'm not sure how much usage this will really generate and how much this is really a business model to look forward to.
But do you think it's because you kind of live in this world, right? You've been in the AI scene for quite some time. Is it because you have higher standards for what you expect of these AI tools, and do you think that there's value still for business leaders?
I think if I have a high-rated GPT, which is called Coding Assistant, it has to deliver better results, or at least better answers, not even results, but better structured answers than the normal GPT-4. And it kind of was worse. Like it was worse to a point where I was thinking about which model is being used. And that's not good because the models are vastly different. And not knowing which is used, it's not speaking for the GPT. I think the idea itself is nice. And if you start interfacing to external data sources, it becomes more and more useful, but then again, you have to be the owner of the API to really benefit from it, right? So for companies that already have a business model, that already have a tool which people use at work, this might be a good chance. Or if you have like smaller companies that don't want to do their own GPT, they might rely on partners to sell their GPTs like in their name or stuff like that. But I'm not sure if a store, like I wouldn't bet right now to build a business on GPT creation.
It's for smaller creatives and maybe creators who are, could potentially, I mean, again, they build the skill sets. sometimes I feel like they're building some of these GPTs just to try things out. So from a business angle, they may not be delivering a lot of value. So yeah, I think I would agree that there's still a lot of noise. And then you definitely with this initial phase of like the launch that just happened, I would wait out until kind of the strongest survive to see which, and the strongest that survive are the ones who can deliver value because they're attracting more and more users. People are providing it feedback and they're improving it, right? The ones that don't get picked up over these couple of weeks, I think you'll be able to see. But I think that there are still, again, some things to explore. There's some efficiencies to be gained, especially if you're new coming into
Yeah.
ChatGPT world and you want to just like jump in and start using it for specific tasks. There could be, again, worth exploring, but again, just wouldn't
Yeah,
bet
yeah,
all of
yeah,
your work on it.
yeah. Like you said. So, but that's also where I think GPT creators should take a bit of responsibility because if I create a GPT, I should at least try to make it work better. But then it's again like the prompt might work on Python. It doesn't work on JavaScript, which I was trying yesterday. So might be that. But yeah, we will see how this develops. At the moment, I think there is a lot of like quick fire. People try to grab some attention. Like always, and it always has been like this. Things will sort out eventually. So.
Exactly.
And if it really delivers proper useful shortcuts for not me being the one to prompt everything again and again on every chat, I'm fine with that. So like I said, I saved several of them because like I have several topics which I have like basically every day or like every few days, and just being able to click on one of the GPTs and then have preset chat environment. I see myself using it, but right now the results are a bit iffy.
Yeah. And some things to also, again, note about these prompts. It's not just, about providing it context, but some of them are powered with frameworks, right? So those are really hard to teach almost, or
Yeah.
sometimes they're not even embedded in the core ChatGPT models. And so there are specific use cases, let's say personality or like leadership assessments, that, yeah, you could potentially get access to them online or get a prompt against it. But if you really wanted to get an assessment, let's say, done, there are GPTs that are taught through these frameworks to achieve. So like it's a guided conversations through the chatbot to get you to a specific result. Or again, it's
honestly, I didn't even think about it, but yeah, of course, you could like upload proprietary knowledge, which is then fed to the GPT. But honestly, I have, for example, a template built on BotPress where you can do the same, then chat with the knowledge and charge after 10 messages. Which like from a business perspective, if I have a fellowship anyway, then yeah,
there's
might
not
be the better solution.
maybe there's not a significant gap or value add. And I think you're saying it. I think that's what it comes down to. So I think folks who have experience, is it better from a user experience to give access through GPT or make your kind of, as you mentioned, web experience, what you do really well, kind of if folks who you're working with are on your website, so maybe it's just better to build your own kind of experience on your website without kind of diverting them to the store to download it and use it via another app. It's been like a big, maybe a topic for another day, but I think the emergence of so many GPTs, apps that use GPT has, instead of increased productivity, has actually declined because there's just too many point solutions. So I think the comment you're making, I think the connection I'm drawing here is like sometimes it's just better user experience if you bring that ChatGPT value to your own kind of enterprise or tool, like just to kind of streamline the workflow and for continuity of that experience. Sometimes it just doesn't make business sense to drive them to use a GPT.
I think it also it's a good point to switch a bit the focus for on the app itself, because like I would just try to explain some basics. So GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformers. Transformers is a technology in AI research. Really a lot of text. And so it's basically, I always see it a bit like as a natural language processor more than anything else, because that's what it's really good at. It's natural language and everything that comes with it. And that's there are two models. They're like GPT 3.5, which started the whole thing in 2022. They already updated this, but it's still like the base model is still the same. And then they have the more capable but a bit slower model because it's bigger with GPT-4. If you don't have the paid version of ChatGPT, you're only using 3.5. I think it's still like that, right?
Yeah. It is.
And if you pay like I think $20 a month, you get the GPT-4 version, which is still not unlimited. I think it's like 50 requests every 3 hours or something that you can set up, because it's a big, heavy AI model, which is triggered every time you send a message, and it's also something interesting. I can ask for like a fairy tale of like 5 lines, or I can ask to explain the theory of relativity, and it's like triggering the same model, and it's like the same cost involved into in answering that mostly, and it's kind of interesting, but yeah, that's basically the difference. Like you have the models, and ChatGPT itself is an app. It's an interface for you to work with that models. Comes with a lot of additional stuff, and I think that's an important differentiation, because of course I can build stuff into my website and use GPT models to do that, but then I have to get my own interface, I have to get my own setup and all the tooling, security, stuff like that. So there's a lot involved in that, and that's what ChatGPT, the brand and the app, it does for you.
It takes care of all of that heavy lifting. And I think another idea is also what's great is that they have a huge user base as well. So just something to consider.
Yeah.
So they're helping them iron out a lot of kinks out of the system.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely considerations. And I think we can talk about that more too, is like, how could you bring a large language model into your business, and like what ways could you use it? And I think there's, again, even OpenAI themselves have like these multiple tiers of how you could actually enable the use of ChatGPT, whether it's via Teams, Enterprise, or you build your own tools off of it. But yeah, I think that's worth even a much more deeper dive sometime in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I find it always funny that people are like also not really getting the potential, because we have a high ranked politician, and he was like trying it out on some really high level exam, like for writing an essay, and he was like, yeah, it's just language synthesis, but it wrote an essay and it was fine. And I was like, and he was like, as if it was nothing, and he was like, this is a machine writing an essay on a high level university grade level. So and you're fine with it as like as like a really a smart guy, and that's not an achievement. Like, I don't know.
So I've given it some thoughts, and this is my take, because I was just speaking to someone behind the scenes, and I think maybe I'll explain. I share your same kind of thinking as to, because people don't really realize what's behind kind of the scenes, what that black box does to really find it impressive. So, and I liken it to an iceberg, right? So an iceberg, what users see is what's above the
Yeah.
water. So they fly, they swim by it, and like it's a beautiful iceberg, and I could see, and it looks amazing. There's penguins on top of it. But what they don't see is how big of a machinery or how big that iceberg is below the water, and how
Yeah.
impressive it's been built. And so I think you and I have kind of a deeper understanding as to how complex these systems are and what they actually do. And I think we were just kind of touching base on that before we started. But, these are, I would liken running a GPT to starting a cruise ship. Like, so if every time that you're running a prompt, like just think a cruise ship that's standing by outside of your house, and every time you're starting it up, it's like all of these different engines that are, or like pieces of machinery that are starting to like
Yeah.
ramp up and like really run. And then you basically turn it off. And that's why there's a lot of cost associated with them. But the infrastructure, like the different pieces that come together to actually power those models, is really, really impressive. And I think the logic of how they're built, I think, Edgar, you probably can give it better justice as someone kind of that's more technical than I am. But it's the work that they do as far as like understanding the text or being able to train on so much data, and then to be able to have such a broad reach of topics and then do those things really well. That's what's really impressive. And I think you and I could give it justice, but folks who are just seeing that top of the iceberg, they're just like, oh, just went from a prompt to give me an answer. Like, what's so different?
Yeah. The thing is, I have it a lot also when demoing my own AI solution, and it just looks like a chatbot looked the last 20 years. So, and people are not that impressed until you start. I have now a trick. I start prompting it, like talking to it in English, and then show them that all the documents are in German. And then they have like, okay, that's interesting. So it's like on the fly translating stuff like in every language or in every main language you need. And that's like where you have to emphasize also for all of you out there that are selling AI stuff, you have to emphasize the bits, like not the result, but the cases where it works even if it shouldn't. And then that's kind of interesting. So for example, show that it, even if it's not in the document, can come up with a solution and then get back to the document and go on. Stuff like that. So I think there is still a lot to be learned also from our side. But I created like a 5-minute demo video in English, which I'm kind of proud of, because it was like the first time I was able to show like where is the interesting part here. Because from a technical side, I know the interesting parts are like, it's ridiculous. What I've done beyond like the hood is not comparable to anything I've ever programmed. Like, it's not even close. It's a complete new paradigm. But what I want to emphasize also is, don't underestimate the language processing part, because I honestly, before I started using LLMs, I wasn't aware what part natural language has in our lives and how important it is for basically everything. And thinking about it, a computer, like any PC or Mac or whatever, being able to understand natural language on a free basis, like you can throw everything in it and it basically can understand it. That's huge. And it's and it writing essays, writing novels, writing poems, stuff like, it's like, holy shit. It's really it's really groundbreaking, because what you would have needed, what you would have needed to do back in the days to achieve even close to that freeform style conversation, you just couldn't do it. And what you can then derive from that natural language processing, and what you can infer, and then go back to classical programming and or classical solution architecture, and take the natural language instructions and transfer them to actual actions. This is where the magic starts. And that's something I think that OpenAI, with this ChatGPT app, they did a great job bringing people closer to that.
And the thing is, it's they've rethought the approach, and so why is it different and why is it such a big, difficult problem? I think I experienced that firsthand because I think I've went into one particular use case where we build our own NLP kind of model. I don't want to say from scratch that we did use established components, but we had to tune them because if you kind of think about, they're really smaller models that are exposed to specific text. Sometimes, I mean, they're rule based. So they're trained on information that they've been exposed to. So if this, then that, if they don't have exposure to specific dictionaries or specific, I don't know, bodies of work, they're just not going to be that creative. So you have to do a lot of fine tuning. You have to train. You have to do manual intervention. You have to come up with a lot of samples from humans to be able to fine tune the results. So it's just a huge, again, an undertaking. That's why I think it's no surprise that training an OpenAI, they don't do it frequently. And I think they don't really have the frequent kind of real time or even more batch, like monthly releases of their trained models because it takes a really, really long time to get the data. And so, yeah, sometimes, I mean, you're 3 months behind on the training data, but it takes such a, just again, if you wanted to repaint the entire cruise ship, how long will that take? You know, you can't do that in a day. It's a huge, again, machinery that's behind the scenes that it takes, quite a while to train. But again, if you think even stepping back, well, before AI, why is this so impressive that all of these AI systems can actually understand or interpret language? So before you did a keyword lookup, you looked at lexical search. There's no semantic meaning, kind of an interpretation. So what semantic meaning means is that you search by a specific keyword instead of just looking by the meaning or the exact spelling of that word and looking basically at the index of your database. It's now looking to say like, okay, well, when you say this, you may also mean that. And it's looking at different ways of phrasing that same either term or phrase. And it's looking at more bodies of different text to be able to surface, again, better results back to you. So again, before AI, it was very much rule-based. If it doesn't exist in your index, and this is why I think old Google really suffered in qualities because it was really keyword based, right? So if you didn't, if that keyword you're looking for wasn't included in an article or some website, you just won't see a result. But now, again, AI is able to interpret that. Like whenever you type in the word bank, I want to put my money in the bank. You're not talking about the riverbank. You're talking about bank, but you may also talk about finances and something else. And so it's looking for things that are semantically similar. So it's able to, again, understand the intent behind what you're actually looking for that just traditional keyword search is not able to do. And I think right now what ChatGPT is...
You had a beautiful LinkedIn post about this some month ago. It's like it's been some time, but where you talked about the beauty of understanding the intent behind stuff. So because in a way it's a compression of language, but you don't save the language itself. You save what it means, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and again, and I think the way to even break out all of AI, and I'm gonna probably ruffle some people's feathers, but ultimately what AI truly comes down to, they're pattern finders. So if you think about what they do is you give it data, they're going to find patterns and they're going to come up with some, algorithm, some mathematical way of explaining it, right? So that's basically how computers are able to reason. So when it comes down to machine learning, you have different equations or algorithms that it's going to come up with. It's basically an equation. When it comes to language, what are they going to come up with? Like they just need to get the gist. They're going to need to find patterns in language to be able to then generate it. So it's still, they're figuring out a pattern in language because they don't really store it. And so the way that we can explain it is the gestalt. So when I say something to you, it's like understanding the intent, it's understanding the core meaning. But when you look at the knowledge or basically the actual behind the scenes, basically that iceberg of large language models, they don't store any of that data. They just understand the gist, those patterns in language. And that's what they basically pull on for that following step to actually generate back. But Yeah, AI, all it is are pattern finders. They just are,
And and honestly, I like it's reflecting on me, reflecting on how my kids develop. We are not. There it is. um, so for everyone on the audio stream, I just got a little notice from my MacBook in the video without asking for it. But yeah, just sorry to get back. So I'm really fascinated how much of the pattern recognition, how much of the also the types of errors it makes are like how I was used to see in humans. I used to see myself, and how much we are just like odds calculating, pattern recognizing machines in our brains, like well, like on a biological point, of course, but we getting really to something, not only understanding and getting better technology, but also understanding what language means for the world and for us humans and for our brains. I think it's very interesting.
one thing that I'll mention as well, because you brought up kids. We have kids both sides, but I do think that it's important to touch on hallucinations and why they're different. So AI has been built in research. I think the way some of these systems are designed actually around understanding how children's learn. Because they're kind of, you could consider them blank slates. And so their initial learning experience could be potentially mimicked by computers. It's harder to mimic how we think because we just have all of these established systems in our head through
Yeah.
learning curriculums and everything. But with kids, it's different. One differentiator. So if you were to basically say, well, is ChatGPT or these LLMs same as a child from their maturity level? No, but the way that they were kind of designed in how basically were thought initially about was through how children learn and how they interpret language and reason and make decisions. The key differentiator that I'll mention, I think hopefully you'll agree, is hallucinations. When
Yeah.
you ask a child, hey, what's this object? And you show just some random object to them. Your child is going to be like, have no idea, Dad. Leave me alone. I don't know. Or tell me.
Yeah.
Tell me so I can learn.
Yeah.
The difference with these large language models or ChatGPT, when you ask it, it's just going to be confident in responding to you and make up an answer. And it's not going to
Mm-hmm.
tell you whether it knew it as a factual thing because again it's just looking at its database. It has some pattern that it found and it's like, okay, well, based on what you're asking about, I think it is similar to this thing over here, this piece of
Mm-hmm.
knowledge that I have. So I'm just going to make up an answer that is close to, I think, what you're looking to hear. And it's not going to give you any indication that it's based on false premises. The difference with a child, it'll tell you right off the bat.
Yeah, yeah. But that's also more of a technical challenge and more of like a conceptual challenge of this thing. I'm really curious to see how they solve hallucinations because in the current state of the technology and how the math behind this works, I don't see it being solved. I see it being reduced, but solved. Don't know. Because they would have to change the system or have the system to reflect on itself, which will be the way to go. But we'll touch on that in another episode. Um, yeah, but you're right. Hallucinations are stuff. That's also something. If you use it in any corporate case, you really have to keep that in mind. It is a nice language generator, and it's insanely capable already, but it's not perfect in any sense of the meaning. But like for me personally, I say, hey, if it's 85% there, it's already useful. And that's basically where what I also suggest a lot of companies when I talk to them is like, hey, it is like only 85%, but humans aren't 100% either. If you look at the benchmarks for LLMs, you always have like the human score, and you see the AI benchmark and say like it's at 87%. And he's like, okay, it's not at 100. And then you see the human benchmark is like 83. And you went, damn it. and that's basically how I approach everything I do with AI today. Is like, hey, I have to find a way how I talk to it to get the best results, and it's the same I have with my employees. So, I don't want to humanize it because it's nothing to do with humans. But as a language processor, it's insanely useful if you accept that it's only 85% right. So.
You touched on something that's just kind of sparked an idea in my head. I thought it was funny. So people humanizing ChatGPT, people thank them. Oh yeah, thank you for your output. It's been like I really enjoy talking to you. Yeah, it doesn't understand. Again, it doesn't have a personality or anything like that. But one other thing that I find really funny is that there's actually a prompt that can actually, if you include it with your request, it'll actually improve the accuracy. No one really understands how the heck it works, but I think it reads, take a deep breath and work on this problem step by step. Which again has like this humanizing component to it. Like you're asking ChatGPT to take a deep breath and then think about this problem step by step. But again, no one really understands why that works. But there is some, again, evaluation that's been done. If you include that phrase, it does tend to give you a better output. So
let's take it back a bit to the ChatGPT app. I just want to briefly talk about the subscriptions we have because, like we said, there's a free tier, there's a paid tier. We also have a team subscription, which is a bit more than the paid subscription, and you can like work together on stuff and share stuff. And then there is an enterprise offering, which is, from my point of view and from like a business point of view, maybe even the most interesting. Because we have one thing that's coming up, always talking about AI. In Germany, it's even more. Like Germans don't even think to use anything before they don't discuss everything. So we have to talk about privacy.
Yeah.
And of course, we said like there is a lot of language data used to train the models. It has to come from somewhere. And they scrape it from the internet mostly. Not even mostly anymore. Like right now, LLMs generating data for LLMs. I think it's getting more and more synthetic. But they also use what we type in our free tier. And if we say, "Hey, this was a good answer," and click on the thumbs up button, then it shows on their end, and they use it to train the model and to get the next model even better, which of course can have privacy concerns. Give us some more background on that.
So I think, do you want me to dive into the different tiers? Because I think you touched on a few things there about like, the different.
What does the enterprise tier do different to comply to privacy terms?
So I think with the different tiers, basically the most secure, I would say, is the enterprise plans. So they enable you to have your own almost like instance or secure access to ChatGPT that does not share your prompts or data shared with the model to actually like prompt the systems. And then you kind of keep that information private. So they basically keep a promise that everything that happens in your organization stays with your organization. So, and that is different from what I think, Edgar, you were just talking about. When you have access to ChatGPT and you're uploading your documents, that's fair game for OpenAI to use if they deem it useful to someone else. Whether or not it has confidential data or anything like that, you've put that document or uploaded it in OpenAI's platform, whether it's on paid subscription or not, GPT 3.5 or 4, it's fair game for ChatGPT or OpenAI to actually use it for training. And I think that's the key aspect. One, you have kind of a promise that whatever happens behind closed doors in your organization stays with you. You just have access to this software as a service kind of platform. and lots of other features. And I think I just kind of did a quick search as to what other things that you can have your own enterprise dashboards, you have access, you have improved availability and performance. So again, it's not just about data privacy, but you're able to get better features on top of it. But from a perspective of privacy, enterprise plan is probably the most secure. From the, again, that require no development. There are other options where you could use ChatGPT or the GPT models, and you can actually build your own software, which we can talk about more. But from what you have access to, that doesn't require a lot of those, deep dive integration. ChatGPT or enterprise is probably going to be your best bet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. So I also want to add to that. If a model is trained with your data, like we told earlier, it's not saving the data, but it might be able to reproduce it from the gist of it. And to, like I think the New York Times just sued OpenAI and Microsoft for using OpenAI Times articles because they were able to prompt ChatGPT to rewrite a certain article word by word. So it is possible to recreate data, at least to a certain point. So if you are uncareful with confidential data, it might pop up later down the road with someone random using the model. And it's not only using it in ChatGPT, like that's the base model, GPT-4, which can be used by everyone for everything in every context, and you wouldn't even know. So having your data secure is important to think about. It's not a please don't use it, danger. No. But we have to see the subscription enterprise, for example, or with other toolings to be in an enterprise grade compliance commitment. So
and I think what's important also that I'll mention why. I think the thing to note here is not to use it, but just abide by your company policies for what information you can't share with others. So whatever plan or whatever confidentiality agreements you have with your customers or in the level of details you can share with your vendors and stuff like that, I think still applies here. So you shouldn't be including your customers' data, identifiable information, or proprietary secrets, and uploading those documents to ChatGPT. So again, some of those same rules you have in your employee agreements still apply, or even your company documents to ChatGPT. So all we're saying is that when it comes down to OpenAI, you just want to be more careful, double checking your data that you're uploading, so you're not including that, because once you submit your prompt with the document to OpenAI, again, it's not one of those things that you can just call up OpenAI and say, "Hey, I made the mistake. 2 months ago, I've sent you a document. Could you just delete that record for me?" It's unfortunately not going to happen, and it's much more complex than that. Because again, if you're how do you remove this gestalt?
You don't.
And where does it live in the model, right? Where is that needle in a haystack? Yeah. So again, it's not to use it, but you want to make sure that you double check the documents or your prompts that you're not including 100%. Proprietary information before submitting, especially if you're using the kind of anything else other than the enterprise plans.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think it's not only ChatGPT. It's definitely something you have to be aware of using any AI tooling out there. Talking about any AI tooling, is ChatGPT our only option?
Oh, I use so many. I have a list of favorites, chatbots. So actually, and I'll say why I use multiple. I think that they have their own strengths and weaknesses. But in addition to ChatGPT, I use Cloud. I use Bard. I use Perplexity. I use Pi.
Oh, really?
Again, I
read so much about Perplexity, but I haven't used it yet. So
you should check it out.
it's a new search approach, right?
It's So what I like about Perplexity is for fact checking. So, and that's why I think I would recommend friending, other than ChatGPT, friend another chatbot, because you could use them to fact check each other. So Perplexity is awesome for that because it will actually surface the articles or things that it's able to find, and it'll surface kind of the preview of what that article or where that information could come from. So you could just basically click and access. So if you're again if you want to, if you're checking the accuracy of ChatGPT's output, I would just copy and paste what the ChatGPT did, and then
Interesting.
put that in quotes, and then say fact check this, and put that into Perplexity, and it should give you kind of an evaluation of
Interesting.
what that's used.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, definitely. Another thing that's in my space, I'm really deep into Microsoft products and Microsoft B2B space is like Microsoft Copilot. Everyone who uses Microsoft basically has heard of it. It's going into Windows and stuff like that. So everything that Microsoft does with AI is now named Copilot in some way, shape, or form. And if you like, I noticed yesterday that if you use Copilot chat, it's like copilot.microsoft.com, then you have an active business subscription, your data is saved by default. So it shows like a little protection badge in the top corner and says, "Hey, we are protected here. It's fine." Which I found kind of neat. I didn't have to do anything. I just logged in, and I seem to have the right. Licenses active, and was good to go. It's not a general thing, but if you but there are Office and Microsoft Cloud subscriptions and licenses that automatically give you like a secure chat experience, which is kind of neat. And did you use Google Bard? I barely
do.
use it. My brother's using it a lot, but he works for Google, so
He's biased. I use Bard for more because it is much closer to real time. So they have access to, I'm assuming in like some RAG way, which again, we'll talk about more because I don't want to bombard everyone with all of these details, but they have access to more current information. So whenever I'm looking or researching a topic that is more current, and I'm just kind of brainstorming some things or things that I need to know, or like give me a summary of every or different perspective on this event that just happened yesterday, I'll have better luck, prompting Bard than ChatGPT that's like 3 months delayed in its training data. So yeah, it depends again on the use case, and this is why I'm saying I think each model has their own pros and cons. But Bard I use for, it's not that great in generating knowledge. So if you wanted to create like artistic pieces or some generate some content from it, not that great. I would say still ChatGPT or Cloud are better for that. Cloud is definitely my favorite. But Bard is really great for research. That's like my primary use case for it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I honestly I only use ChatGPT right now. I was thinking about trying Claude. I use a lot of open source stuff in my programming and try it out. Also locally on my machine because I'm really like even thinking about having stuff run local on my computer is really cool because in Germany we have really bad reception, especially for mobile internet. And if I'm sitting in a train down to Munich, it's a 7-hour train ride, and you basically 3 hours of that 7 you don't have any internet. And having a local model with all the knowledge baked in, that's nice. Just might help in some situations. So yeah, it's really interesting to use. Yeah, besides that, like we said, there is a lot of options and possibilities, but I think we have to talk about it in the next episodes because we are running out of time.
That's an awesome conversation.
Yeah, so I think we could could talk a little bit more about the GPTs and how you could use it in your company to access company interfaces, stuff like that. But yeah, I think we will move that one to another episode. So stay tuned. Follow this new AI Boardroom podcast on the channel of your choice. We will be on YouTube with video. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, I think. I don't even know how they all are called, but we will be there. You will find us. And yeah. Svetlana, do you want to add something?
No, I look forward to it. I mean, we're really fluid, I think, with some of the topics. So we'd love to hear from you. So if there is a topic that you've kind of heard us touch on during any of the episodes, feel free to reach out to us, because I think, at the end of the day, we're doing it for you, and we want to make sure that you're getting the values worth. So of listening to us and
I also
taking the
love
time.
to hear myself talking, honestly. But
Yeah, but reach out to us if you have any topics for business. If you're using it, we'd love to know more how you're using it for. If you're exploring use cases still for ChatGPT, and that you're kind of thinking that that's going to be your first use case, and you want us to dive deep into specifics, happy to do it. So we can definitely be flexible and adjust to what you guys are curious about. So yeah, I would just invite people
and we not only
to reach out.
we want to be. Yeah. So yeah, just hand us over your thoughts, your questions, and we try to consider it and to give you the information you need.
Perfect. So what's on the next episode, Edgar? What do we have going? What do we get
Honestly,
people excited about
I've like,
next week?
just as talking, it's so many things. I would say people just have to tune in, and maybe we maybe we also get some new news next week. So let's see. I'm not sure. Like I have so many things I want to talk about after this episode, and where I think people can derive a lot of value from. So. Yeah, like Svetlana said, if you have anything, let us know, please. And we are really looking forward to talk about all the topics that are, keeping you awake at night. Considering it AI, of course. Yeah. There is also one call I already making, because I hope this episode will be heard like a month down the road. And if you're hearing it, it's most likely that our website, theaiboardroom.com, will be online, where you can find summaries of the episodes, can find profiles, can contact us directly if you want and need to. Also, you find us on LinkedIn. Svetlana is like a superstar on LinkedIn, at least in the AI space. And rightfully so, to say the least. And yeah, you find us there. Talk to us, chat to us. We're looking forward to hear from you. And yeah,
We're open door policy. I think, again, reach out to both of us. Yeah, if you have any specifics, I think we'd both be excited to hear from you. So yeah, but check out our website. There's going to be a way to communicate more with us, give us feedback, and all kinds of things. But yeah, we would love to get your feedback.
Yeah. Then I have to say, Svetlana, thank you very much. It was an honor to co-host this with you.
Likewise.
I really, really enjoyed our talk and all the preparation we did beforehand. So yeah, like to prepare some more topics for you all. And that's it from me. Last words.
Thank you. Yeah, we look forward to continuing the series. So thank you, Edgar. Thank you for your patience also today with all of the technical difficulties that I've experienced. Let me just kind of summarize that. So he's really, really patient in guiding me through all of this stuff. So it's been an awesome episode, and I look forward to the series. So I hope everyone has a great, awesome day.
Bye-bye.